You're listening to Story Struck. I'm Rachel, an editor and writing coach.
And I'm Nino, a ghostwriter and book coach. Welcome to our curious community where we dive into everything books and writing.
Now, let's get into the episode. On today's episode, we have Sarah Elizabeth Sawyer from fictioncourses.com, and we are so excited to pick her brain about one of her upcoming courses that's all about dictation for writers and authors. And it's something I want to learn more about, and I've used in a kind of different way, and we'll chat about that in today's episode. But Sarah, would you tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you got into this?
Yeah, Rachel and Nina, Nino, sorry.
No
Thanks so
worries.
much for having me on. Both of you really appreciate it. And yeah, I've been teaching dictation for a few years now. I started seriously dictating my novels in 2020. Before that, my first attempt to dictate was in 2013, like my first official. And I had heard other authors, they were talking about dictating, like going out for walks and coming back and getting chapters written. And I was like, that sounds so cool. Like I could do that. And I tried it and I had downloaded a trial version of Dragon Dictate on my phone because I didn't want to go out and buy the software because it's hundreds of dollars. And I was like, can I really do this? So plus I was just like, I don't know. I wanted to I heard a lot about, having to train it and it being, just that learning curve. So I did download a trial version on my phone in 2013 when I got my first smartphone. And I tried it, posted about it on my Facebook, and I was like, this could be epic. Like, this is so cool. And it was an epic failure because I could not go on to dictate my stories. Like my brain, it would just freeze up. I would start my dictate function and my brain would freeze up. And I was like, oop, I'm just not wired that way. Like some people are wired to dictate their fiction. That's great. I'm just not one of those gifted people. Like my brain is just wired differently. So I put it aside, but I kept coming back to it because I would hear about authors on podcasts and they were like, yeah, I dictate while loading my groceries in the car. And yeah, I dictate walking the dog and in the carpool line, like all these things. And I'm like, oh, I've got to do this. So I kept trying, failing. Finally in 2020, yeah, in like it was March whenever I posted about it. But a few months before that, I had started practicing dictation. I was like, I am going to train myself to do this. And I did some training and just on my own. And let's see, it was a few months after that, I was walking into the kitchen and I just had this entire scene downloaded into my brain. And I was like, I got to capture this. And I was going in there to do the dishes. And I was like, oh no. And I've also got to get out for this appointment in 20 minutes. I knew I didn't have time to type the scene. I was like, I can't do it. I can capture a few notes, but I know just because of my experience as a fiction author, I was like, this is going to take me an hour. This would take me an hour to write this out. And I thought, you've been practicing this dictation thing. Why not? Like, why not just go for it? So I plugged in my earbuds, which I don't really recommend authors do because of sound quality, but that's another thing. The thing is you start with what you have. And I was like, it's what I had. And so I plugged in my earbuds. I started my dictation to record and I had a record app on my phone at that time and started recording and doing the dishes at the same time. So, because I was like, I can't leave these dishes in the sink. So I started doing that, dictating the scene, and I headed out the door, came back, had the app transcribe my words, and I had written nearly 1,500 words of fiction in like that 20 minutes while doing the dishes. And I was like, what? Get out. So I knew at that point, like whatever I need to do to really master this and make it a part of my writing life, I need to do to just build a sustainable fiction author career. Like that was my goal. So I continued going forward. I ended up writing that whole novel with dictation, and I've been dictating ever since. I have not typed a first draft since then. So I was able to make that transition. So that's a bit about it. I started sharing that with other authors, and they were like how do you do it? How do you get past the brain freeze and the tech hangups and all of that? So that's when I started teaching authors how to dictate their fiction. And I love seeing the light bulbs go off and authors like, I can do it now.
That is so interesting because when I coach people, right, like journaling is a really big, important thing. I am a big believer in just journaling. Like morning pages are great, but like just whatever modality of journaling you can work through. Big fan. But then I would talk to some people and they're like, I can't write down my thoughts like that. Like it just doesn't work. And I'm like, okay, how about a voice notes app? Just like record yourself a voice note and record the chaos instead of writing it down and just getting it out of your head. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, like why don't I do this for my book? And so as I was going through the ideation process of my book, and some of the drafting process, I would get like that aha, right? Those downloads of like, oh my God, this is the scene, or oh my God, this is the thing. And I would brain dump it into my voice notes app while I was taking a shower, because that's where all my ideas come from, or while I was on a walk
Yep.
or whatever. And then, like, okay, cool, I have it for reference later. And that was great. But when you're talking about all of the actual, like, what is that process like when you're actually like dictating that scene? Cause I'm like, and then Loki says blah, 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 right? Like, my brain is not computing how that looks. Tell me.
Yes, that is like and that is the oh gosh, there's so much to unpack there. I love that you encourage them to do voice notes. I've actually gone back to doing my morning pages by dictation. You don't get the full benefit. You don't get as much benefit as handwriting. Like that's way better. I've journaled, my whole life and all. But I just went in for a massage Monday, like a therapeutic massage, and they're really working on my neck and my shoulders. And, whenever I handwrite, I'm just like doing this, and I'm all bent over like this. So I'm like, oh, that's where my neck pain's been coming from lately. So I'm like, I'm gonna dictate for a while. I'm gonna dictate my morning pages. Again, not as much benefit, but I'm getting something, right? I'm still being able to verbalize my thoughts, and we talk about talk therapy and all of that. So taking that, and that's actually what I practice with. So taking that and actually moving into fiction is a whole other thing. Because it's like you said, during the ideation process, you're just thinking about the characters and you're kind of outlining. You're just like, well, maybe he does this time. And so a lot of authors, that's where they start with dictating. They're just kind of talking about the scene. And they're like, I'm trying to dictate the actual scene. Like, here's the dialogue, here's the action. Like it looks like sentences that I would have typed in fiction. So how do you make that transition? And for authors, I just say it is practice. And there's several things that I teach on practice. I'm trying to think of the best one. So one of the things is reading works out loud that already exists, like either your work or another author's. So reading a novel out loud with your dictation function activated. So you're not just randomly reading it out loud. You're being very intentional about and when I said dragon, just quick note for everybody, you do not need Dragon. I never use Dragon beyond that trial version of my phone. So just voice memos, like there's so many ways you can dictate now. But just reading out loud another author's work and getting that feel for speaking dialogue. I train authors, and not all of them do it. Comes down to personal choice, but I do train to speak your punctuation. So even though there's auto punctuate, or you can drop it in, chat or something, like do the cleanup and all, add punctuation. I encourage that because it's a part of your style. It's a part of your author voice and how you form sentences and all. So just like you trained yourself in typing on a keyboard, we don't think about hitting shift and question mark and return for a new paragraph. Like we just do it automatically. And that's where I'm at with dictating. I don't have to think about putting my punctuation in. I don't have to think about, she walked down the street and met him on the corner, period, open quote, what are you doing here? Question mark, close quote. Like I just speak that punctuation, and it's become second nature to me. So what I always encourage authors in making that, like I'm going to actually speak scene, I'm going to actually speak fiction, is don't start there. Like get used to the tech first, get used to speaking words out loud, and then start training yourself to dictate your fiction. And once you do, it can become as natural as typing. Whenever I started, like, don't put that pressure on your brain. That's what I want to say. Don't put the pressure on your brain of, okay, I'm going to sit down and now I'm going to dictate my entire chapter. I'm never going to type again. And that's too much pressure. Like, let's do it in incremental baby steps. And that's what I do in my training courses, is give authors like, here, we're just going to take this a little bit at a time and train your brain to speak your fiction. And then authors, I just see that moment, like in one of the writing sprints that we had in one of the advanced trainings, the author, she just came back on and she was like, I just dictated a scene for the first time. Like I was just, dictating notes and outlines and stuff. And like, it just happened there. So with that practice. So there's several things that you can do, but main thing, encourage authors, just do it a little at a time. Don't like put the pressure on your brain of, okay, now I'm going to do nothing but speak my fiction and it's going to come out perfect and all of that. Let it be messy, all those things.
It sounds like a great process to lean into the shitty first draft and move past that overanalyzation while you're in the drafting process, where the little squiggly lines are distracting you. You're rereading your stuff that you just wrote 5 seconds ago and like going back to revise it. That self-editing that we do and stuff. It sounds like a great way to avoid that, like one of the paths to get out of that process.
Yeah, I'm a big advocate of the messy first drafts. And I know for perfectionists, if you're listening and you're like, you want it to come out perfect and all, I get it. I get it. And I really do encourage authors to use dictation as not only letting the process of learning dictation be messy, but let their drafts be messy and let dictation give them that permission because I think we could have so many more authors and so many more authors finishing their books once you let go of that perfectionism. And so I know it's hard, but it's well worth it to have that finished book, to have that first draft finished, and now you can sculpt and make it into whatever you want. So we're just shoveling sand in the box to build castles later. I love that quote by one author, and I always forget her name, but she was just like, we're just shoveling sand in so we can build castles later. So just look at your first draft like that.
That's awesome. And I loved the example you gave for people to practice by like reading other stuff and practice dictating that. Because I'm really huge into like people finding their own voice and style. And like we all have our unique voices and styles. And so one thing that I teach people is like to test out other author styles to see like where it feels wrong and where things feel right. And then like you can kind of start to feel it. So I think that's really cool to take that idea of, reading other people's stuff out, because when we read things out loud, it's different than when we're reading it in our head, writing and stuff like that. So we can hear where stuff feels stilted. So if we're trying to experiment with voice and style and we're like tripping over our words or our things like that doesn't sit right, like, okay, why? Then learn from that. And I think that's kind of like a fun idea of taking, some of your own work as well that you've written before, and then practicing the dictation with that to see how that feels and sits differently from other people's works. I think that's just a really cool idea. And I love the being able to do this while you're doing something else. Because just like number one, for wrist health, right, as writers, we do so much typing. We have to take care of our bodies, our posture, all of that. So we can, like you said, get out and walk and do this. Do it while we're doing chores, do it whenever. And for me, I'm a fiber artist. So now I'm like, ooh, I don't have to choose between using my wrist today for like spinning on the spinning wheel or doing some crochet. Like I can be in that meditative state of doing that and be dictating my book at the same time. I'm like, this is amazing.
That's
When
an
you do
even
that,
better.
when you
Yeah.
do that, Rachel, you have got to share your story.
Yes, I'll be at the spinning wheel talking through my dark fantasy and like I have to be like, all right, slow down. We're in a fight scene. Don't make the yarn too thin. Like, all right, let's keep the pace going.
I could just see that rhythm though, man, and not
Hmm.
having to pick between your art mediums. I've had so
Yeah.
many so health. I mean, we talk about getting words down faster. Like that's what most people come to dictation for. They're like, and I
Yeah.
did. I mean, I doubled my writing speed. I went from an average of 1,500 words an hour to an average of Zoom is shooting up here about doing hand gestures and wanting me to add effects. So let me just clear that off my screen.
Oh
No, I didn't do
my.
that. I guess I'm using my
So
hands a
weird.
lot,
No,
and
you're all
Zoom's like,
good.
use your hands, and I'm like, okay, sorry. I guess it's saying like closed,
Gotta love
open.
Zoom. That's
Ah,
hilarious.
okay. So health, that is so writing faster is what drew me to dictation. I did double my writing speed. I went from an average of 1,500 words an hour to 3,000 words an hour. That was not going faster in my creative process though. Like I'm writing the same scenes, I'm writing the same characters, I've preserved my author voice, all that good stuff with dictation, but I did double my speed, and that's not talking fast. Like you can talk slow and you're still going to get more words than typing. You will always be able to talk faster than typing. But what I'm really finding is a lot of authors are coming to dictation for health. Like that's becoming the number one reason instead of I want to write faster. A lot of authors are like, well, speed's not that important to me. Like I'm just doing my art, like fantastic, but I'm here for my health. Like I have carpal tunnel injuries, I've had surgeries, I have eye issues, talking about eye strain and wearing our
Yeah.
glasses. And
Hmm.
there's all of, like I'm just saying, with my morning pages, like I'm dictating them again just to take a break, just to take a break on my body and give it that break time. So dictation is authors are coming to it not so much one is preventative, but two, they're like, if I want to continue as an author, like I don't have a choice. I have to master dictation. I have to be able to dictate my fiction or I can't continue to be a writer. And so that's authors. Yes, health is becoming the number one. So you can get up, you can move around, you can give your wrist a break, give your eyes a break. And I rarely, except during revisions occasionally, but I don't dictate fiction at my desk. So I'm always in a different location, somewhere that's better for my body whenever I'm doing and I'm getting my fiction writing in.
That's awesome. And like also I love being able to take advantage of those pockets of time. Kind of like how you said you were doing it when you were doing the dishes, things like that. Because you may just have maybe 5 minutes here or 5 minutes there, but that adds up over the day. I have a friend of mine, and she wrote her book in a year by just setting aside 15 minutes a day. And she did her book, and she was so excited at the end of the year. She had the first draft of her book completely finished. And she's like, I didn't think I could do that because I can't sit down with my family with work for like an hour a day or this or this or this. But all of those pockets added up. And if she had something like this, she probably could have done it even sooner because she could have had just the 5 minutes while I'm waiting to pick the kids up at school. Boom, that's 5 more minutes there,
Mhm.
the 10 minutes while I'm doing this, another boom, that's all adds up, all of those little tiny things. And I'm super excited because when I think I started practice drag and dictate back in the day, kind of when you were talking, and like I have Mac, and I think it was only for PC, and so then they had like a version for the iPhone, and it was absolute trash, like it was
That's
terrible, and I
right.
kind of gave up on it. I was like, no, and then the closest I ever came to using dictation for writing, like Nina and I, we worked as ghostwriters, and during the process, we would actually interview the authors like we're talking now, and then we would get a transcription made from the call, and we would use their words, their style
Yeah.
from the transcription to actually do the book. And so like now I'm like, okay, this is like next level doing it for me instead of like me getting the transcription essentially from them because I got them to talk it out. I'm like, why did I never think of this before for myself?
And also, this makes me think about like how much, able-bodied people benefit from things that were initially created for differently abled people, right? Like this was an like talk to text was initially an accessibility tool. And now, we've grown and adapted that so much to where now it's just a thriving tool. Like now you can do this and write your whole book while you're on your morning walk and not even have to add. Because I just think about like people who are on screens all day. Like I know Rachel and I are on screens all day. And initially I worked in physical therapy, so I was moving all day. I was
Mm.
always up, always about, always walking around. 10,000 steps a day, easy peasy
Oh,
lemon squeezy. And now I'm like, if I get 1,000 steps a day, like unintentionally, it's a miracle. And like being on screens all day, I can feel like I'm wearing glasses now because I'm trying to protect my eyes a bit because I can feel that wearing down on me. I can feel my muscles just being tight, like you said, and stuff. And so this gives like that accessibility that was originally for, people with different abilities, um, has evolved now and we all benefit from it and we can all literally thrive from it, which is just beautiful.
Sarah, if you can hear us, I think you're
yeah.
frozen.
I did. Y'all
Oh,
both
there,
I did freeze up. I was like, "Ah, what's going on? Sunspot or something?"
juicy moment. So this makes me think of, so I'm on your email list, and I know you have this week going on, like, was it the Walking and Dictation Challenge with your 5 Minute Fiction Club?
Yes, yes.
Is that it?
Walk and
Yeah,
talk.
I was like, oh, yeah, there's it talking, right? What was it called?
Yeah, walk and talk.
Walk and talk.
Yeah,
Yes.
walk.
Oh my goodness, it's so much fun.
Let's
Could you
get
tell us a little bit
moving.
about that? I just thought that was so cool, your 5 Minute Fiction Club, because it made me think of my friend with her 15 minutes a day.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, when you were saying that, I was like, yeah, 5 minutes of fiction. And just going back to the accessibility for just a second, I was like, because I was going to just tag on to that. I mean, one of my brothers, well, a couple of my brothers have dyslexia. And so one of them, he was dictating his text messages before I was. I was like, I would see him like dictate, and I'm like, that's cool. Like, what did you do there again? And so it's incredible that yes, now we are able to do that and hopefully prevent, even some health issues from those that are coming up. So yes, I have the 5 Minute Fictation Club, and I started to call it the 5 Minute Fiction Club because that's what I started. One of my podcast episodes was about this hack, like how you can get in 5 minutes of fiction a day and what a difference it makes. Like I said, 15 minutes, you can have a novel written at the end of the year, and 5 minutes a day, it may take you longer. But what I really love about just that 5 minutes, it keeps you connected to your story. Like it's so easy to drift away and go, oh, this week was chaotic. I just, I'll get back into my fiction writing next week. And then the resistance starts to build, right? Like we're like, "Ugh, I've been away. Like the characters are kind of becoming strangers. I'm not familiar with the plot. I got to dig back into all of that. And so now weeks go by and potentially months, and you create this block. So the 5 minutes lets you touch your story every day like I said, pretty much at some point, you're doing dishes or you're at some point in your day, you've got that 5 minutes that you could just touch your story, get a few words in, 100 words, 200 words, the amount doesn't matter. It's just you're doing that 5 minutes. So I created the 5 minute fiction club or 5 minute fiction club, and then we renamed it the 5 minute fictation club because I did come up with that word. I'm really proud of it. It's my portmanteau. And it's fictation, so it's the act of dictating your fiction. So us authors, instead of being dictators, we are fictators. So we really love that. So we decided to go ahead and call it the 5 minute fictation club, and it's to help authors combine those two habits and the skills, rather the habit and the skill. So the habit of just doing 5 minutes of fiction a day and actually dictating that. So the 5 minute fictation club. And I have that over on Substack, which is really fun. I'm really getting into Substack. I wasn't on there before that. And so I have my podcast on there available and transcripts for it. And then for the paid portion is the 5 minute Fictation Club. And right now it's $10 a month. That'll go up. That's my charter members right now, but that's where we're at. And then so we're running challenges. I ran a 5-day challenge last month. Authors loved it, being able to just be able to post in there. Yes, I did my 5 minutes today. Yes, I did my 5 minutes. And yes, I did my whole 5 days straight. And I have levels, so that put them all at the hiker level. And then you can go on to be a backpacker and a trailblazer and summit seeker. So I have the levels in there. It's really fun as you're building your skill of dictating your fiction. So this month's challenge, yes, and we're in August right now, but this month is the walk and talk, and that's just get moving. Let's get our stories moving. Let's get our bodies moving. And that can generate creativity as well, like movement. That can help if you're having those blocks and everything. So being able to dictate while you walk. And so I have some authors, they're like, I can only walk around my flat. And I was like, that's fine. Like, you don't have to be outside. It doesn't have to be anything special. You're just walking around in your house. One is she's going to walk while she's at lunch on her lunch break. And like, it doesn't make me walking on your treadmill. So as long as you're just up, moving your body for that 5 minutes and dictating at the same time. And I'm hoping some authors will fall in love with a new way of doing it. They're like, I was just dictating while I was on my treadmill or while I was sitting, or laying down on the couch. But now I found that, yeah, I actually can unload the dishwasher and get 5 minutes of fiction in at the same time. And so that's something I didn't realize I could do. So that's the challenge this month. And yeah, it's a lot of fun to have that community of authors who are dictating their fiction.
That's so awesome. Cause like also I love a challenge. I love participating in challenges. I don't know if I'm just like very competitive or what, but oh my God, you give me a challenge and I will accomplish it. Actually, that was how I got my book to actually happen. Is I gave myself a word challenge and I kept track of it and stuff. And so like to have something so accessible as 5 minutes a day and it just be a challenge is just like such a great way to get people past that first barrier of like doing it regularly.
Exactly, exactly. Because if it's too monumental, if it's like, I've got to dictate for an hour because that's what I do now. I write for an hour, I write fiction for an hour and dictate for an hour. Oh, that's just too much. And like, okay, that's just too hard. I'm not going to do it. But just increments. And that's enough of a challenge, like just 5 minutes. But knowing that after you complete that challenge, then you can go back to typing, you can go back to whatever. But just do that. And I'm just seeing it transform authors' lives. Like and I've had authors say that, like, this has changed my life. I would not have been able to keep writing if not for this. But yeah, I discovered that, yeah, authors, they love that challenge. I put that out there and they were like, give us more. Let's have a challenge every month. So that's my goal now with the club is like, we're going to try to have a challenge every month for authors to just dig into. And it's like, okay, give me that challenge. I want to climb that hill.
So, well, you're going to have a new member as of when we get off this call because this sounds amazing. And my company is Bookbound Journeys. So, like, when you started talking about hikes, summits, I'm like, let's do it. And then, like, thinking of the movement as well, like, in my book, there's going to be a lot of like fight scenes and things like that. And so I'm just thinking, movement wise, of like trying to picture a fight scene in my head, but I'm like, what if I am like around the house like acting out like I'm having a sword fight, and then I can see like better, all right, they're going to lunge, and I can picture how the body is lunging and like be narrating it while it's going on and be like, and it makes a little bit more sense,
Yeah.
having that movement out, and then my neighbors and my family will think I'm totally insane, but it will be fun.
I've
That
never thrown a punch while dictating. Maybe one or two.
I'll have to
that's such a
record
good
that one too.
idea
I'm gonna
though.
have opposites, like spinning wheel dictating and then like mock fighting, swordplay dictating.
That's such a good idea though, because when I was doing one of my fight scenes in my book, my son is a martial artist, and so I'm like, okay, kid, like you need to help me out here. If I'm doing this, like, what do you do? And I'm like walking through the fight scene with my 10-year-old, like, okay, how does this function? And then I like, okay, so basically this is what we have to do. And then I had to map out the whole thing. But if you're like in the midst of it and it's like, and then he right hooked here, but then the guy ducked, and then, that could be so fun.
Like a
Older
little
person, then
sparring
you're
partner.
like, yeah. And then an older person, you're like, oh, I felt that pinch at my back.
Yeah, like, oh man.
That's connected to that.
Oh, that's such a
So
good
funny.
point. Because it's
So
like,
Yeah.
fun.
how would a non-fighter do it versus a fighter, and how would they
Right.
feel? And
How
because,
would- yeah.
yeah.
Role
Oh my
playing.
goodness.
You can role
Yeah.
play with dictation.
So I know earlier you were mentioning like that they don't need the Dragon Dictate software. So what kind of tech would someone need if they wanted to try dictation?
Right. If you have a smartphone or a computer, you can dictate. You don't need to go get any other software. You don't need to get anything else. Like Nina was saying, it is the built in speech to text or dictate option on your phone or computers. Whether you have an iPhone, Android, Mac, PC, you can dictate with the device you already have. And you can dictate. I like to tell authors anywhere that you can type, you should be able to dictate. So whether that's Microsoft Word, whether that's Scrivener, Atticus, Google Docs, email, wherever that you normally type, you can speak your words. So I currently just dictate directly into my Scrivener iOS apps. Unfortunately, it's just for iOS, Scrivener is, and it's not a built-in function that Scrivener has. They're just using your onboard, what is already on your device to dictate. So you can just go right into your Scrivener, tap into your current scene, and tap up your keyboard, your on-screen keyboard when it comes up, tap that mic option and start speaking, and it goes right into Scrivener. So I love that versus I used to do the record and transcribe it method, which is great. That's actually the fastest way and the most distraction-free, messy way of doing it. And it's fantastic. You can get your draft just laid down. But there are some other steps involved in that. But some authors prefer that or need to do it because of their device. So I do have a free mini course on how I do my Scrivener, and it's over at fictioncourses.com/dictation. And you can get a free mini course. It's my dictation plus Scrivener power combo. And that's totally free. Just kind of if you want to look at my process of how I specifically use dictation with Scrivener. So that's how I currently do it. But I have authors that I mean, if you have an iPhone, I think Android as well, like it just has, even on your default notes app now, it has where you can do a voice message and then it will just do the transcription right there. I haven't checked the accuracy of that, but like I said, the technology just keeps getting better and better. So you don't have to go out and spend money on expensive software. You can just get started with dictation with what you have.
That's a great
That
point
is so
too.
cool.
Yeah, I was actually gonna say, like, I know for my voice memos and stuff that it will transcribe it, and it's messy. Like, it's very messy when you just do it through like the voice memo and stuff. But if you are in that situation, if you're just trying to get stuff down, if you have this scene just living rent free, because I'll have a scene come in and like download in when I'm driving, and I'm like, crap. And usually I'll just be like, okay, so the scene has to be like this, and then this has got to happen, and da da da. But I never thought about actually dictating that.
The
So
actual
for the
scene.
people who have like the average, I know in Massachusetts, the average drive to work is like an hour or an hour and a half or something like that.
Wow.
And so, that's 2 hours a day that you could just be rambling on about your book, and then you just like upload it into a doc and then clean it up. And now also with AI does have a good amount of like tools that help you kind of just like, okay, can you just polish this out? Or can you, like, so you don't actually have to sit there, but it's not writing it for you. It's just polishing
Mhm.
it maybe or formatting it, but
Mm.
you have something to
Yeah.
say.
I call that cleanup.
Okay.
I didn't want to interrupt you, Nina. I was just
No,
like,
interrupt
I
away.
know
I have
you were looking for
ADHD
the
and this is the
word, and I
thing.
was like, so we don't call it editing. It's not revision. It's cleanup. That first draft that I did, and why I don't recommend like the earbuds, because it just didn't pick up the audio good. That first
Okay.
scene that I ever did. I think it rubs and stuff. Some authors, they'll get a lavalier mic, and I have a little headset mic that I use. It didn't have to be anything expensive. But I just hold my phone up to my mouth for most of my dictating. So clean up. I'm so glad you brought that up, because that was a big thing that kept me from wanting to do dictation, because it took me 30 minutes to clean up that first scene. And I was like, okay, 20, 30 minutes to dictate, 30 minutes to clean up. I'm still at my 1,500 words an hour, right? Like, and it was still good because that was, 30 minutes that I
Mhm.
wasn't at my computer. I wasn't using my wrist, and I was able to do it while I was doing the dishes. That scene would have been gone. It's like what you said. It's okay. I can capture some notes, but I had the opening sentence, I had the action, I had the closing sentence. Like, it was the whole scene. Like, I've got to get this down. So you can do that with dictation. On cleanup, though, what I have found is, as I have trained myself with dictating and being comfortable with speaking my words, that it's gone from about that 50-50. So 50% of my time dictating, 50% doing cleanup, to about 90-10. So now, whenever I dictate, I can dictate for 50, 55 minutes, and then I just spend 5 or 10 minutes doing cleanup. I am not doing editing. I am just going through looking for where I may have stumbled and paused, where the transcription, like I said, got it off. It didn't do a character's name right, or, all of the little things that we can clean up. So I just do that cleanup. I don't do editing. I'm just doing a speed read through it. And yes, I have so many of my authors now who are going to chat. They're dropping their words in there with a prompt. You need to be very specific with your prompt,
Mhm.
or it will try to rewrite your words. Like, you just want it to do the cleanup. You just want it to fix any punctuation, any, words that it didn't transcribe properly. So that's probably something I'm going to be working on soon, is a separate little training, just a short training and some prompts for
Mhm.
authors who want to go that route. I think I'm about to start experimenting with that myself. It's very slow coming into, and I know a lot of authors, it's still a very hot topic. So I've been very cautious on the AI aspect, but it is something that I'm looking at, and a lot of my authors are using. Honestly, it's been around. I mean, Dragon is based on AI. Like, that is
Yeah.
the all of our transcription services, the speech to text, everything. It's been around. They've been working on it since the 1960s. Dragon's been using it for like over 30 years. So that is what is transcribing our words to begin with. But now we can take it a step further, and we can have it clean up our words, and, like I said, do some formatting, and just not mess with our words, not change them, not rewrite them, but just do that cleanup, so we're not having to manually clean up our dictated words. But for those authors who are like, "Oh, dictation, it's a mess, like, this is just scrambled eggs," I just wanna say it does get better with time and practice with dictating your words.
It sounds
Yeah, I think
like if you are sorry, Rachel.
that's
It
okay. I know
sounds
we always go at the same time.
always.
Always.
But it sounds like if you are dictating talk to text versus dictating with like a voice note to transcription, that it's a little easier for the cleanup because you're able to say period, open quote,
Mhm.
blah blah blah, close quote, things like that, than if you're just word vomiting into the voice note and it's transcribing it. I don't know about you, but I don't have that much of a southern accent, and it catches things wrong all the time when I'm doing any sort of dictation. Do you find that same issue?
A mini and mini, which I know nobody could tell the difference between what I just said, but MANY versus MINI. So I was saying mini, and it kept doing like mini, like miniature. And I was like, no, Manny, Manny. And so I had to over enunciate. So I started over enunciating it, and I would say Manny, Manny, and it started picking it up. And then I could dial it back, and then
Mhm.
it would pick it up. So we're not training it like per se, like training your dragon, but the technology is getting used to your voice. It is getting used to your accent. I've had authors that English was their second language, and they're dictating then in English. I have an author that dictates in Finnish too. So it's like it does take a bit, but your technology will start adapting to your voice. That's a part of the artificial intelligence part of it. So it is getting used to that. So that's why I tell authors, if there's a particular word it's just not picking up, try pronouncing it differently, try over enunciating it. So there's some things that you can do with that. But as far as the record versus just speaking directly into it, you can punctuate either way. So if I'm on the record app, I learned to speak my punctuation on the record app, and then it transcribed my punctuation. Some transcription services and even speech to text, it will not let you turn that off. It will auto punctuate whether you want it or not. So otter.ai, I'm looking at you. You cannot turn off auto punctuate on otter.ai. If you upload your recording and it's like doing the transcription and you say period, question mark, like it will write that out. And so that's why I don't use Otter. So my app that I used to use, it would auto punctuate, or you could turn that off. So I turned it off. Same thing with your phone. You can go into your settings and turn off auto punctuate. And so when you're speaking, you're just speaking your punctuation. And like I said, if you want to put punctuate, if you want to auto punctuate or you want to drop it in chat and have it punctuate, you can. It's just, like I said, for me, it's a part of keeping my author voice. And so that's why I train myself to punctuate and why no matter what tools we have that will auto punctuate, no matter how good they get, for me, it's still just keeping that voice of, because we use punctuation differently, especially as fiction authors.
Mhm.
So we're going to want to punctuate in certain ways. And you can do that in your revision process, but I just really encourage authors that it is clunky, it does sound uncomfortable, but you will get used to it and you can, it may take some months, but you will be speaking your punctuation as naturally as you would typing it.
And so I was thinking for the cleanup process that once you start to learn how to speak the punctuation, that will probably make cleanup faster
Yes.
because you're not going in with like a big long, slew of stuff and you actually have it starting a new paragraph where you want it to start and it's looking
Exactly.
a little cleaner and probably less overwhelming when
Mhm.
you go into it.
Exactly. 100%.
Very cool. Is there anything else that you'd like to add before we wrap up for today?
Oh my goodness. So yes, my dictation boot camp coming up. I have it in October of each year. I say that. I may change the date next year, but for this year, definitely October kicks off October 14th, 2025. And I'm always so excited for this because we have authors from around the world that come in, and it's a time that I will do about a 30-minute live training video on Zoom, and authors come in. You also get the replays for 30 days. But we come in, I do the training, I give you an assignments. You were talking about you want a challenge, you want an assignment, like do your work, here's your homework. So I give homework and I'm like, do this. And it's something simple. It's not anything that's overwhelming in tech or training your brain. Like we are just taking the first steps in dictating fiction because so many authors, they're just going it alone. And like me, it took 7 years before I finally made that transition from typing to speaking my words. And I don't want authors to have to go through that alone. So the Dictation Bootcamp usually have over 100 authors. I had up to 400 authors in one of them, in the one last year. So we come in, we have a private Facebook group. If you're on Facebook and you want to join that, it's not required, but it's just an extra community aspect. You can post your assignments, and then during the live Zoom, you can get into the chat and talk with fellow authors who are trying out all the different tools. A lot of the stuff we've been talking about, hey, I'm trying this, I'm doing it while I'm at my loom. It's like getting it done in different ways and just having fun with it and exploring dictation together. So that's what the Dictation Bootcamp is. It's just $37, and like I said, it kicks off October the 14th. And I think, Rachel, that you'll have a link for that for authors that
Yeah.
want to come in and join. So I'm super super excited. So I'd love to see your authors come into that and just experience the power of dictation, because it's not just about writing faster. It is about your health and building that sustainable author career. So love to see your authors come into that.
Yes,
Why don't you
absolutely.
drop your podcast
Yeah,
while we're
tell us
at
about, yeah,
it?
your podcast. We need to know about that too.
I love it. So the
Yes, all the
confident
stuff. Share it all.
Okay, let's see. The Confident Fiction Author. So I have a podcast called The Confident Fiction Author, and really helping authors live their best creative lifestyle. So I talk a lot about habits and trimming your life down, knowing what to quit, what to not quit, and also that you can really just not be overwhelmed by being an author. And so dictation is a part of that. I've had a few episodes on dictation because that has definitely helped me live my best creative writing lifestyle. So really helping authors to design their life intentionally around with their writing, rather than things just happening and being overcommitted and all the things that we tend to get caught up in. So really helping authors build a confident creative lifestyle.
And we'll have all of the links to all of her stuff in the description somewhere.
Yeah,
I
so we'll have
love it.
everything there so you can check out all the amazing stuff that Sarah is doing. Thank you so much for coming on and talking with us about this today. I am like super pumped. I am in the very tail end of plotting out my book right now. And so I'm like, I can even use this for while I have the ideas coming in for the scenes. And I think that's going to make the plotting go so much quicker because like I'm so busy with work during the day that like my mind gets bogged down and I'm like, I don't have the creative space. I have like my pockets of time set aside to get to it. But now something comes up, I'll be able to do more than just that simple voice note. Like I have a little bit more of an idea of how to kind of structure it so it's less overwhelming. I'm one of those perfectionists. So if I just see a sea of like words, I'm going to get very overwhelmed.
We all do, even if we're not perfectionists. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see where you go with that. And yes, I dictate all of my outlines, and I love it because I'm not a huge outliner. I don't really like plotting. Dictation works whether you're a plotter or you're a pantser, seat of the pants writers. But I love to dictate my outlines. Yeah, I'm excited to
Awesome.
watch you both in getting started with your dictation. So I'm here for you.
Thank you. And that's a nice little bonus tip there for wrapping up. So thank you so much. We would love to have you back again sometime soon. And everybody, please go check out Sarah's workshops, her podcast, all of that good stuff.
I'm excited. Thank y'all for having me on.
Thank you for listening. Check out the show notes for details and links from the episode. And don't forget to subscribe and follow for more. Special thanks to our composer, Micah Silverstein. Enjoy the rest of the music.